to spend Veterans Day with all of you during our 75th anniversary year. We have been hard at work for the last couple of years planning this incredible anniversary year. Hopefully you've enjoyed our virtual programming. Some of you have attended or will attend some of our in-person programming across the country and soon to be globally as well, as we honor all things CMC during our 75th anniversary year. And of course, hopefully you have all put Alumni Weekend 2022 on your calendar, which is Memorial Day weekend, May 26 through 29, 2022, where we will have the entire campus for our alumni community as we celebrate the 75th and honor our alumni who've missed their reunions, the 0s and 5s, 1s and 6s, and who are due their reunions this year, the 2s and the 7s. So looking forward to having you all on campus and finally being able to see everyone in person very soon. If you haven't yet, do go to the 75th anniversary website, 75.cmc.edu, and you can share your story. You can learn about the future of the college. You can visit the archives page and see the incredible archives that Sean Stanley and the archival committee have put together over the last 6 months to honor CMC's incredible history, and as we look toward our very bright future as well. On campus, we are looking very good, and hello to my campus colleagues who've joined us today. We have almost 1,400 students on our campus and enrolled. That is the largest student body that CMC has ever had, and that's not uncommon in higher education because of pandemic deferrals and leaves of absence. And our students are doing exceptionally well. In fact, last week, we had absolutely no cases of COVID with faculty, staff, or students, of course, knock on wood, but we are testing everyone weekly. And of the last 8 weeks, 5 of those have had absolutely 0 positive cases. So CMC had a great plan to return our students, and we've executed that plan, and we see great success on our campus and within our student body as well. And thanks to all of you for your understanding and your continued support as we push through in this unusual year while also honoring our 75th anniversary as well. So it is 12:03. I might as well get started here on the Pacific Coast. Welcome everyone. My name is Evan Rutter. I am the Assistant Vice President for Alumni and Parent Engagement at Claremont McKenna College, also an alumnus of the college, graduating in 2006. I am not a veteran, but I welcome all of our veterans and those who serve and thank them for their service. And it's a pleasure to spend the next hour with you today. As a part of our 75th anniversary countdown, the 75th anniversary committee led by Trustee Sue King, who is here somewhere. Hi, Sue, there you are. We decided that, of course, November, we would focus on CMC's ROTC program and veterans. And what better than to use our incredible archivist, Sean Stanley, and the hundreds, if not thousands, of boxes of material stashed away in Bauer Center and in our storage units, dig them out and create an incredible exhibit to honor the past, the present, and the future of CMC's ROTC program. So with that, Sean, I do want to thank you for all your work. I know it's been a lot to put together all of these different programs, and we're all just thrilled to look through this one. It has a little bit of everything. It has CMC before it was CMC, before the founding. It has co-education and what it meant to be the first women ROTC graduates at CMC, and of course honors a lot of our current serving or recently retired alumni as well. A few things about Zoom before we get going. At the bottom, you'll see a chat button. Feel free to click that chat button and the chat box will open to the right. If you haven't yet, please feel free to put in your name, your class year, your parent year, your city, your state. And of course, if you served, you can put in your years of service, where you served, anything else you want to share with the community. At the bottom left, there's also a mute button. Please keep yourself muted so we don't hear any background noise. And the top right, there is a view button. You can select between speaker view or gallery view, however you want to view Zoom. That's up to you. We will be sharing screen and spotlighting our speakers fairly soon. So know that your screen will change, but it will return when we're done with the screen share aspect. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce our key panelists for today to talk through the exhibit. First, as I mentioned, I want to welcome Sean Stanley. Sean, thank you for all your archival work here and putting together this incredible program. John Faranda, class of 79, our college ambassador, and I call him the resident historian with over 40 years of CMC knowledge and experience. Welcome, John. And then I want to welcome Lieutenant Colonel Dan Hayden. Lieutenant Colonel Hayden is the chair of our military science department and a professor of military science here at CMC. He's a U.S. Army engineer officer who served in a variety of command and staff positions from platoon leader to battalion XO, completed 5 combat deployments throughout his career, having served twice in Iraq and 3 times in Afghanistan, with duties ranging from facilities engineer to battalion operations officer. He received his commission through the ROTC program at UMass Amherst, with a degree in poli-sci, and he holds a Master of Science degree in geology and geophysics from the University of Missouri and a Master of Military Art and Science in military history from the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College. His awards and decorations include 3 Bronze Star medals, 4 Meritorious Service medals, 3 Army Commendation medals, 2 Army Achievement medals, the Combat Action Badge, and the Sapper Tab. Lieutenant Colonel Hayden, thank you for leading our ROTC program. I think this is certainly a different appointment than you expected, being in the middle of a pandemic, and I'm so glad that you have adjusted so well and that you're willing to be with us today. We also have General William Crouch, CMC class of 1963. He's a retired United States Army 4-star general who served as Vice Chief of Staff to the United States Army from 1997 to 1998. A graduate of Claremont Men's College with a degree in government, he also holds a master's degree in history from Texas Christian University. He began his service in 1963 as a cavalry platoon leader in the 5th Infantry Division. He went on to command 4 companies, 2 of which were cavalry troops in combat. His subsequent commands included a cavalry squadron, the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment, and the 5th Infantry Division. He also served as commanding general of the 8th United States Army and Chief of Staff, United Nations Command, Combined Forces Command, and United States Forces, Korea. The general's decorations include the Defense Distinguished Service Medal, the Army Distinguished Service Medal, the Silver Star, the Legion of Merit, and the Bronze Star Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster. So, gentlemen, thank you for spending time with us today. Thank you for your service to our country and also, of course, to Claremont McKenna College, our alma mater. Before we get going, I wanted to ask Sean Stanley to give us just a brief overview of the exhibit, and then I will share screen and we'll start walking through the individual pages. Sean, what did you learn most when putting together this exhibit? Share with us some of your thoughts.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I just wanted to say hello and happy Veterans Day to all the veterans and those of you that are joining us this afternoon or morning or evening, wherever you're joining us from. So our exhibit this month, we're taking a focus on the ROTC program, kind of its history, and we kind of highlight some CMC veterans as well as we're going through things. So we've kind of broken it down into you know, kind of several different themes and eras. So first off, we're focusing on the kind of founding of the ROTC program itself, and then we're going to move into a focus on the Vietnam War era, and then moving into kind of the co-education era when women played an increasingly larger role in the ROTC program, and then we'll wrap it up with a look at the kind of new and more modern history of the ROTC program. So I guess the first thing I learned as we move into this first page was just how far back the ROTC program goes. You know, obviously CMC started in 1946, but the ROTC program itself predated CMC's history by several decades. And maybe I'll actually touch upon that point as we scroll down the page a little bit. But first off, I kind of wanted to touch upon the importance of the GI Bill at the establishment of CMC as an institution. The majority, you know, of CMC's first initial students were, you know, returning from World War II, and were able to attend the men's college on the GI Bill, you know, returning from the war, getting the opportunity to pursue higher education, as well as several of the initial faculty members. President Benson, you know, for instance, served in the U.S. Army during the war, as well as Gerald Jordan, Bertha Ward. You know, quite a few of the initial faculty members were returning veterans themselves. So in this first portion of the page here, we kind of highlight that a little bit, and then we have some snippets from the student newspaper, The Analyst. So some articles highlighting student veterans. So this would have been from the initial graduating class of 1948. And I do want to encourage you all to come back and explore these, kind of at your own pace, because we'll have to move somewhat quickly through it. But there is, quite a bit of history to go through, and some great and interesting stories to read through.
That's a good point. In fact, so much of your exhibit is you can do more of a deep dive into it. It's not just on the initial review, but almost everything is clickable, and you can read more and you can expand. I found it fascinating here that 33 were the largest group is from Pasadena at this time, and of course the editor of the AR down below, Sam Bader, comes to our events in New York still. So really fun to see some familiar names and to see some fun facts.
Yeah, certainly. And yeah, everything is, as you mentioned, Evan, everything is clickable. You can explore things, zoom in on the images, and, kind of pick up on some of those details. So I hope you all have some time to spend with the exhibits, because there is, quite a bit of history to go through. And then moving forward, after the founding of CMC in 1946, for kind of a 2-year period, CMC students who wanted to enroll in the ROTC program had to join the Pomona ROTC unit. Maybe I should circle back a little bit, because I did want to touch upon the prehistory or kind of the founding history of the ROTC program. And we can see an image there of the Student Army Training Corps, which kind of predates the first ROTC program at Pomona College. So we can see them marching down College Avenue there in front of Carnegie Library. But this was kind of the precursor to the ROTC program during World War I. And then following armistice at the conclusion of World War I.
Sorry to interrupt, Sean. I'll just point out that
Yeah,
interesting photo that Evan highlighted, that many of those students are wearing masks from the 1918 pandemic. You look closely when you go back.
Over a century ago now, but we see some some similarities in terms of what we're going through at the moment as well. So yeah, the SATC itself was kind of the precursor to the ROTC at Pomona College, and then following the conclusion of World War I, Pomona College was granted an ROTC program by the War Department. So that's kind of the first ROTC program and the starting point there in 1918. So then moving forward, a few decades with the establishment of CMC, as I mentioned, the first couple of years, CMC students would have to join the Pomona College ROTC program. And then President Benson, who was a major supporter of the ROTC program himself, was able to found and kind of get a joint Pomona CMC ROTC unit set up by the War Department. And that began in the fall of 1948. And then by the following year in 49, 71 undergraduates from CMC had enrolled in the ROTC program, which was nearly a fifth of the student body at the time, which is, very interesting, and just shows how popular the program was, early on. And then continuing, through the Korean War era, the ROTC program continued to flourish, largely due to draft deferments that were offered to ROTC cadets during this period. And then so, in the early 1950s, the ROTC program numbered about, 300 students between Pomona College and CMC. So, it was a quite expansive program here.
What do you think it says, Sean, that during that time period that CMC and Pomona were selected for some significant publicity for Army ROTC nationwide?
Well, it just kind of goes to show kind of the strength of the ROTC program. And I know just in reading through some of the, the newspapers and some of the information that I think it was one of the most successful, certainly in Southern California, if not the entire state. And I think this is, largely one of the reasons the Army chose CMC as, kind of the location for this publicity movie, just because of the success and the amount of ROTC cadets that, that were going through training during this period. And, certainly the support of President Benson and many of the faculty members during this period, also lent itself to the strength of the ROTC program early on. And as we can see here, it wasn't just military training, but also kind of social events that drew many students to kind of pursue the ROTC program, or kind of celebrate some kind of lighthearted moments as well. So we have the ROTC Military Ball, which was an annual event that cadets were able to attend, that kind of made things fun, in addition to training for military leadership moving forward in their careers.
Let me pause there, Sean, and ask General Crouch and Lieutenant Colonel Hayden to chime in here a little bit. General Crouch, a little bit about your perhaps more social experiences in Army ROTC now that we're here at the military ball section. And of course, Lieutenant Colonel Hayden, a little bit about what the opportunities are today for students to interact socially in today's ROTC. And General Crouch, I did have to mute you because we were having some feedback on your end. So if you could unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can.
Great. The first thing that I really would like to underscore is the two gentlemen that you see in that picture, Dr. McClellan, who drug most of us kicking and screaming through basic econ, and President Benson, who was probably one of the most aggressive and thoughtful backers of the program, particularly as he tried to link it with Pomona. This was not well received by Department of the Army, as I remember it initially. And it took someone with the drive and vision of Dr. Benson to be able to put all of that together into a 300 cadet ROTC department that was the envy of those in California, and it really worked. He also later on became Assistant Secretary of Defense, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, John Faranda, as I remember, in charge of ROTC for the Defense Department, but that was truly later on. The social part of ROTC, remembering that what was the draft era. So there was a tremendous environment just at the end of the Korean War now, with a couple of years intervening, and the draft in place. Vietnam, at this point, had not become an issue, was a way to enhance the deferment that you got as a student, and add to that capability. And then the second part of it was, and I remember discussions that we had all around this, both with people inside of ROTC and out, of what you were doing at CMC or Pomona, what the education was to mean to you, and with a draft that would grab you as soon as you walked across the stage, were you not better off taking ROTC, becoming commissioned, putting yourself in a leadership position, and getting that kind of experience, as opposed to becoming drafted and serving at a lower level? Was a very interesting challenge and thought process that really drove lots of people into the ROTC program.
Thank you, General Crouch. Colonel Hayden.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Evan. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Yeah, so with regard to the sort of social aspect of ROTC, this is my second year, but because of COVID, it really feels like sort of my first year and a half. I'm at like a 1.5 right now. we did not have a lot of opportunity last year to socialize as a program outside of training. In fact, we didn't socialize as a program outside of training. And that was a focus coming into this year for me and all of our cadre, is what were those traditions that we were dormant? We didn't lose them, but what were those traditions that, were dormant last year, we couldn't really, sort of do, and how are we going to do them this year? And what other things do we want to accomplish? And so I've had a lot of conversations with the cadets, especially the cadets. And it really seems like I'm constantly asking, are we pushing the program too hard? Are we doing too much? And it's always a resounding no. This is what we've always done. You just weren't here last year to sort of experience that. But when we talk about the social aspect, I encourage our cadets to be, visible on campus. Retention and recruiting is always, recruiting and retention. So number one, number two, my priorities. We're active in the color guard with the athletic department. Coming in December, we're having a couple of key social events in December. We're going to have a fall award ceremony. Recognizing our cadets and their accomplishments is vitally important to me. And so we're going to have an award ceremony followed in the spring, not necessarily followed with a military ball, but in the spring, we'll have a much larger awards banquet. We're also going to have a branch night in December as well, in which all of our active duty folks will receive their branch assignments. I'm going to receive those early morning on December 1st, and we are going to quickly turn it into a big ceremony, that evening. So in those regards, those social aspects of the program remain strong. My concern is always, what are we missing, right? What happened before I got here, and what can we continue? For example, the turkey shoot, we're going to have our turkey shoot for the first time in a couple of years. I see John clapping. I'll see you there. That's going to be on the 16th. So those things are coming back. And any chance that we get to integrate into the CMC community, is a good thing.
Thank you, Dan. Moving along, Sean, we have lost 6 alumni in active duty, and our first ensign, Lee Penn Blind, was actually, quite young and quite early in CMC's history. What did you learn when you kind of looked into some of our alumni who gave the ultimate sacrifice?
Yeah, the majority of them did come during the Vietnam War era, or in Vietnam, I should say. But yeah, Lee Blind, actually, he was killed in a training accident off the coast of Florida. And this came right after the kind of conclusion of the Korean War. Obviously, all these are tragic and sad stories, but we did want to kind of include them and kind of memorialize them on this first page. So you can kind of read through his story here at your leisure.
Thanks, Sean. And
Sean, I think everyone would like to know that Lee Blind's family set up a memorial scholarship fund. So there is a student studying at CMC today in his memory.
Yeah, that's great.
Moving on to the Vietnam War era, Sean.
Yeah, so initially on kind of the beginning of this page here, we're highlighting some of our Vietnam veterans. So General Crouch is included here. We also have Robin Bartlett, who I know has joined us this afternoon. We've included a portion of his incredible story and memories that he contributed to the 75th edition of the CMC magazine. And then kind of scrolling a little bit further down, as you mentioned, we have our 5 remaining CMC alumni who were killed in active duty during the Vietnam War. So again, I would encourage you all to take some time and explore these and read through each of their stories and, kind of get to know them a little bit, because, they'll pay the ultimate price for our freedom. So we do want to honor them. And then we have included a couple images of Veterans Patio, which is on campus, and I would encourage you all to visit. But we also have a couple plaques which memorialize CMC's fallen veterans. So please do visit if you have the opportunity to do so.
Thanks, Sean. And also add that both Jack Stark and Mustafa Mirza have put together a veteran scholarship at CMC, and that supports not only veterans coming back to receive their bachelor's degree, but also the children of veterans. So should anyone want to support veterans at CMC, there are lots of ways to do that through established funds or anything that you may find worthwhile at CMC. I want to turn over to General Crouch a little bit to talk a little bit more about that Vietnam era. Of course, General Crouch, you were active duty at the time and did several tours in Vietnam, but talk about the kind of the Vietnam sentiment in the 60s.
Well, as you said, Evan, that was obviously was a trying time for all of us, both in and out of the service. I was Armored Cavalry troop commander in Vietnam, and the second tour was that was a combat tour without any question. The second was I was studied for about 6 months at the Foreign Service Institute in Washington to learn how to be a district advisor. And if you want to talk about a role unspecified of building schools and dispensaries and trying to coach my counterpart, Vietnamese Army major, whose brother, by the way, was vying for the presidency of Vietnam. So a highly politically connected officer. Studied that for 6 months and then deployed for longer than I cared to be there in the early 70s in trying to build institutions and nation build blatantly in Vietnam. In the meanwhile, I did serve in an ROTC assignment briefly at Texas Christian University. And it was without, if those of you that remember, without a national will for the commitment in the later years and the desire to withdraw from Vietnam and the demonstrations that were conducted around college campuses was not a pleasant environment to serve. At the same time, the draft kept bubbling and eventually was deactivated, and we became an all-volunteer service, much to our credit. And so that worked extremely well as we came out of Vietnam, but had to rebuild and basically rebuild the Army for about 15 years, which we were able to do.
Thank you, General Crouch. That leads us to our next section. You mentioned very briefly about the social unrest, and CMC and the Claremont Colleges were not unique to that social unrest. Sean, what were some of your takeaways as you read about the protests in the late 60s in particular and early 70s on CMC's campus?
Yeah, it was, oh, excuse me. It was, it was interesting to see just, how kind of widespread the, I guess, anti-war sentiments spread across the Claremont Colleges campus, more so on the Pomona College campus, more than CMC, but I did want to highlight, some of this era because it does play a major part in, the Claremont College's history, especially in the late 60s, early 70s. So, we highlight, some of the debates that were going on during the time. So we highlight Colonel Bowen Smith. He undertook a couple debates with President John Israel, kind of debating the merits of the ROTC program on campus. And then, we have a nice image here of some dialogue engagement sessions between ROTC cadets and some of the student protesters, trying to both have have both of their sides heard and kind of understand each other, where each other are coming from. So it's nice to see that some of that dialogue was taking place in addition to some of these larger disruptive demonstrations and student protests and things. I will say through the era, CMC was kind of backed on a larger scale by both faculty and had a larger approval rating by students than the other campuses at the time. I think it was something like 51% of CMC students were in support of the ROTC program on campus, whereas the remaining colleges were something of like 38%. But I did want to highlight some of the larger, kind of protests of the era. There was, several demonstrations and sit-ins at Bauer Center. There was also, unfortunately, a few firebombing attacks at Pomona College and Scripps. The most serious was at Pomona College, where an explosion severely injured one of the department secretaries, and that occurred in 1969. And then here, as you can see, this article, this came a little bit later in 1971, where there was a firebombing of the ROTC offices, which did some extensive damage. But, it was kind of a tumultuous period for the campus at the time. So I did want to, kind of highlight and speak about that a little bit here.
Thanks, Sean. Dan Hayden was mentioning before this call that his windows at ROTC and Bauer Center no longer open and are reinforced. And it's actually something that was reinforced back in 1971 after that bombing. Jack Stark actually put in windows that could withstand something like that. So Dan Hayden is still feeling that protest from 50 years ago. Co-education. So ROTC, of course, was co-ed prior to 1976, but CMC was not. And so adding women to our ROTC program was only natural as CMC went co-ed in 1976. So we have some great snippets from the co-education era and post-Vietnam era. And Sean, what were some of our takeaways here?
Yeah, so it was largely, as you mentioned, ROTC was open for Pomona College female students, but CMC didn't go co-ed until 1976. So the 1970s, we see some increased opportunities for these women cadets, largely after 1973 with the withdrawal of US troops from Vietnam. ROTC became more of, kind of a opportunity for a free choice, or for students to kind of actively pursue some of these new career opportunities, opening up for professional military career. The one thing I wanted to mention is, again, with CMC's transition to a coeducational institution in 1976, there was great turnout for women cadets from CMC. So I have listed here, by the fall of 1978, 17% of CMC students participating in the ROTC were women. So, there was some great participation in the ROTC program. And as we just saw there, Deborah Hasty was actually CMC's first women student to receive ROTC commissioning honors, which she got in 1978. Also, one of the first initial graduates, CMC women graduates at Claremont Men's College still at the time as well. And then just below that, we have highlighted some of our notable CMC women ROTC cadets over the years. So we've kind of broken it up into different decades, but please do come back and explore some of their stories. And then by the decade's end, CMC had significantly diversified its program and offered several different training programs and scholarships, which made it an attractive option for both men and women students.
I know we have Lindsay Burton and Marisa Walter joining us today, and we mentioned Robin Bartlett is here as well, who was featured on the previous page. So thank you all for being here, and we'll ask some others to join in the conversation shortly. I just wanted to kind of open this kind of FAQ page, which I thought was really fascinating. And I wanted to ask General Crouch, what did you see throughout your career as the Army became more open and welcoming to women?
It was a growing period. I will not try and characterize it as easy for women particularly to step into those roles. But as time has, and very challenging as far as they were concerned, limitations on where they could serve, what kind of branches they could serve in, and constantly pushing the envelope, women constantly pushing the envelope to be able to achieve the rank structure, which we only now have our second female 4-star, who is the Southcom commander, behind Ann Dunwoody, who commanded Army Materiel Command. But they are starting to, they're continuing to make progress as they contribute tremendously to the Army.
Thank you. And Colonel Hayden, what's the breakdown of our women in ROTC now? Do we see a lot more women deciding to go the ROTC route?
Yeah, Evan, that's a great question. And I will tell you right now, the women of our program, they are the strength of our program, and it's not even close. They form the senior leadership of our cadet battalions. You know, for CMC specifically, I probably should have these numbers memorized off the top of my head, but we've got about 22 cadets from across the 5 Cs, from across the Claremont Colleges, but from CMC specifically, they're all women. I think we have maybe one male cadet. We do, and he's a senior, but they're all women, and they're all scholarship winners. They're all very high performers, and they are the future of our program.
Great, thank you, Colonel Hayden. Our final page, it looks to more the modern era and the current time period. Sean, what are some highlights here?
Yeah, so just starting off, you know, we step back slightly, but we just kind of touch upon some faculty members, some administration members that have supported and you know, kind of pushed the ROTC program to where it is today. So we mentioned Professor Ward Elliott, we have President Jack Stark here, and then we again kind of speak a little bit about President Benson. We have a copy of his speech at the ROTC commissioning ceremony in 1984, where he you know, kind of mentions ROTC as a driving force for success, you know, kind of in the modern world. I do encourage you again to kind of go back and read through those materials. And I know Captain Carl Giles has joined us today, so we've included an article on him that was included in the Profile magazine. So please do explore that piece as well. But again, this page kind of just kind of focuses on kind of the ROTC's program in establishing and kind of fostering, you know, future leaders, both in the military and beyond in professional capacities. So I did want to touch upon just a couple points that during this period, kind of through the 80s and 90s, the ROTC program expanded to not just provide training for the Claremont Colleges community, but also opened its instruction up to other institutions from around Southern California and the Inland Empire. So for instance, extension centers were opened at Cal Poly Pomona, San Diego State, Cal State San Bernardino, and Cal State Fullerton. And Dan can probably speak upon some of these points a little bit more than I, as to what ROTC is doing in terms of training amongst multiple institutions around Southern California. But I did also want to mention that in 1995, CMC assumed full support of the ROTC program. And we can see this photo here. In 2018, the ROTC program celebrated its centennial celebration. So 100 years of service and providing instruction and training for ROTC cadets. So we have an article here you can click in and explore, and some images from the centennial celebration. So please do take a look. And then also we highlight Jordan Venglass, who I know has joined us as well. Again, we highlight his great story that was included in the CMC magazine. So please do take some time and read through some of these great resources.
And Sean, we end, of course, with the challenge coin, our Golden Battalion challenge coin, which we'll talk about a little bit more as we closer to 1 o'clock. With that, I did want to turn it over to Colonel Hayden for some comments on the Golden Lion Battalion today, now at 103 years old. Colonel Hayden, if you give us a little bit of an update on what's happening on campus today.
Sure, everything, it's all happening. No, Evan, appreciate it. Hey, just to backtrack, I counted off the top of my head. Right now, we've got about 22 cadets in our Claremont McKenna detachment. So, and I'll explain sort of what all of that means in a minute. 22 cadets. Of those 22, 9 of them are students here at Claremont. 8 of them are women, and that ranges all the way from freshmen to our 2 seniors who are going to graduate here in the spring. And so anyway, those are some pretty strong numbers. And like I said, the diversity really is the strength of our program. Sean mentioned, extension units, extension centers, et cetera. And just to kind of give you an update, Claremont is clearly the host school, and I will never stop being the host school. But we have extension units, and that means I've got active duty military stationed, assigned to Cal Poly Pomona, Azusa Pacific University, and then east of the 15 at Cal State San Bernardino. Currently, the assistant professor of military science at Cal State San Bernardino is Captain Natalia Bailey, who is a CMC grad. As many of you may empathize, she could not find time in her busy CMC schedule as a student to do ROTC. So she took the road less traveled, graduated, and then went to OCS. And then I hired her about 6-7 years later. So anyway, Natalia is doing amazing work out at Cal State San Bernardino, and she's on campus quite often as well. Okay, anyway, and then we also have an extension unit at UC Riverside, and then also at Cal Baptist as well. I would be remiss to say, speaking of gender diversity, I would be remiss to say that if I did not say, I am also married to a veteran. My wife, Holly, is a product of this program. She went to Azusa Pacific University and commissioned through this program in 2005. And my kids love coming into the range and seeing all of the old photos. And there's one of my wife up there, and they refuse to believe it's her. Anyway, but it is. So we have 5 extension units, and CMC's the host. However, like I said, we've got folks assigned to each one of those extension units. We are the largest ROTC program on the West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and including programs in Alaska, Hawaii, and Guam. So our higher headquarters, and the structure has changed a lot throughout the years, but our higher headquarters is 8th Brigade ROTC at Fort Lewis, Washington, now JBLM, but it'll never stop being Fort Lewis to me. And that's our higher headquarters, and they have 30 programs. Like I said, West Coast, Alaska, Hawaii, Guam. We are the largest program, and it's really not even close, to be quite honest with you. It can be unwieldy at times. When I talk to my peers who have sort of one hallway programs, if you will, they've got 4 or 5 cadre and 40 to 50 cadets. Our enrollment currently is 160 across all 6 of our campuses. And like I said, it could be unwieldy. Those numbers are down a little bit from pre-COVID, but they are starting to pick back up as we're back on campus and we're able to have more in-person recruiting. a credit to my team that those numbers are not a lot lower than they are. We were really able to retain talent and also recruit talent as well. And the reason that we're able to do that is because I came in and said, boy, we've got a lot of people all over the place. And I am very laser focused on making this program personal for everybody, making it feel small. We're the largest program on the West Coast, but how do we make it feel small for our cadets? And so I challenge my assistant professors of military science, my military science instructors, and our Department of the Army civilians. I challenge them every day to personalize it for each and every cadet. And really, we've been pretty successful in doing so as well. Training-wise, training really didn't stop last year, to be honest with you. We exercised from very, very strict, Jordan can attest, we exercised some very, very strict COVID protocols in our training. It was very challenging though, because each one of our campuses had caveats. For example, CMC was closed. We couldn't bring folks onto campus for any reason. And that was for very good reasons. But every campus had different caveats. Some campuses were able to train physically, but all of our military science classes, all of that curriculum was done through Zoom, and it was done online. As many of you know, that can be difficult because a lot of it requires hands-on. But in the end, we pushed through. And our cadets this summer performed very, very, very well at our annual summer training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. I had a fellow PMS from a school in the Midwest tell me that the California schools couldn't compete because they weren't ready because of COVID, XYZ. And we crushed it. We knocked it out of the park. So training is ongoing. We still have weekly leadership labs that we train small unit tactics, individual soldier skills, and then work our way to small unit tactics. We also have those social events that I talked about earlier. Next weekend, we've got our fall FTX coming up. We'll be training out at Camp Pendleton. And then our team, also I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our Ranger Challenge team. Our Ranger Challenge team went up to Fort Irwin last weekend, and we got third place. Now, it's not first, which is what we were hoping for. But we started day 2 of that event in 10th place, 10 out of 11 teams. And boy, I'll tell you, the grit and determination that our team, led by Cadet Lauren Jeans, who is a CMC student, and by far our top cadet, led by Lauren. I mean, they came from out of nowhere and they put their head down, they got the work done, and they ended up finishing third. If we had done a few more push-ups, we probably would have gotten second, but that's okay. But that Ranger Challenge team, it was probably the hardest thing many of them will ever do in their military careers. Certainly the hardest thing that they've ever done. So training is ongoing, and we can't wait to get down to Camp Pendleton for the FTX, and then we'll probably be back there in the spring as well. Evan, did that suffice?
That was perfect. Absolutely. Thanks for the update. Congratulations on so much success. You don't have to answer me today, but I always love having Army ROTC and the Rifle Range open for Alumni Weekend. So hopefully you will continue to do that. I know it's been a couple of years, but thanks for the turkey shoot next week. And of course, Alumni Weekend wouldn't be the same without an open house at ROTC.
I will absolutely answer you right now. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring up General Crouch as well, and John and Sean to this conversation. General Crouch, you're very involved with CMC. You were very involved with CMC ROTC, and of course you're involved with the Keck Center on campus as well. What does it mean to you that CMC has this incredible history with the Army and service and ROTC, and if you could just comment on your thoughts there.
Well, this is where I started on this campus. This is where the values were built. And whether or not there was a war ongoing or one that had just been completed, the spirit of service was something that you couldn't avoid at CMC. And since then, I've always been interested in how well the school is doing, how well it's developing, what the institutes are contributing, which is one of the reasons that I'm serving on the board of one of the institutes. But it is an institution that built my values and showed me how to contribute and how to develop others. I couldn't trade my experience at Claremont McKenna College for anything else.
Thank you, General Crouch. I know we have several alumni here who were featured, whether Robin Bartlett or Jordan Benglass or Marisa Walter or Lindsay Burton. If any of you would like to share some thoughts on your experience, please feel free to unmute. Maybe I'll start with Lindsay. Lindsay, are you with us?
Josh Walter would like to say something.
Josh Walter is here too.
Well, Marissa's sitting here thinking about Alumni Weekend and wants to challenge and organize a PT challenge for all ROTC alumni that come back for Alumni Weekend. See who's the most fit. How about that? In their age group, obviously.
I'm looking at you, James Ewens.
Do they have to still be active duty, or they have to be?
No, just whoever alumni come back for Alumni Weekend on Saturday morning at 6:30. We all show up and take a PT test, right? And see who's still awake from the night before.
I'm going to put John Faranda on that job. John will be there at 6:30 to judge it all. Well, thank you, and thank you both for your service. Two graduates of our ROTC program at CMC. It's good to see you, Josh and Marisa. Only the Walters would propose such a challenge. Absolutely, absolutely. Anyone else? Lindsay or Robin?
Yeah.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. I just would like to mention I went through the ROTC program at CMC and probably had the best training that the Army had to offer. I was an infantry officer, went through basic officers training along with the West Point class, and I came from a military family, so it was very ingrained in me. I went through airborne training, Ranger training, was assigned to two of the very best units that the Army has to offer, the 82nd Airborne Division, as well as in Vietnam, I served with the 1st Cav Division in I Corps from the Gulf of Tonkin on the East Coast to the Laotian border on the West Coast. So having said that, absolutely nothing really prepared me for what I had to face in Vietnam. It was the most challenging event of my life to this date. And at the same time, I came away from that experience with a lot of confidence, and my wife calls it fearlessness, that my greatest strength is that I'm fearless. And something like that does, in fact, prepare you to be fearless. That's my greatest strength and perhaps also my greatest weakness. And the only comment I would have for this group, and I hope you will pass it on, is that I encourage you, when you meet a Vietnam veteran, you can always recognize us because most of us are losing hair or we have white hair. Don't say thank you for your service. Avoid saying that. The code words for a Vietnam veteran are welcome home. And surprising what will happen when you use those words, let me tell you. Thanks.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Robin, and welcome home. Lindsay Burton, I know you were here. You made a few comments last year, and I think you are still in Hawaii and would love to hear a brief update from you.
Yes, I am very much still in Hawaii. So I am now a fuel and water platoon leader out of the 25th Infantry Division Combat Aviation Brigade. So I do a lot of work in the way of logistics to make sure that Air Force gets to move. But CMC was a wonderful experience. There's so many unique things about being a CMC student and having learning happen not only in the classroom, but in real application, whether it be your clubs, volunteering off campus, research institutes, what have you. All of those different experiences that you get to have as a CMC student really translated into my leadership style moving forward as a platoon leader, and then hopefully in the coming years as a company commander. So I owe a lot to the CMC program, and I love to continue to still volunteer and participate in these sort of events. But I know that a number of individuals can definitely speak to that as well. I am very excited to hear that the Lady Cadets are killing it out there. So I remember working with Jeans and Peterson and all those individuals too. So I'm excited to see all those folks succeed. So in 2019, when I commissioned, I was only the 28th woman to commission from the ROTC program. So I'm excited to see that we're clearly going to be hitting in the high 30s now. So, but thank you so much.
Thanks, Lindsay. Hope all is well in Hawaii. I know Carl is with us. Carl, of course, a big game on Saturday. We're CMS versus Pomona Pitzer at 1 o'clock, and I think you'll be here with us then too.
I'll be there in spirit. I'm checking in from Germany right now, and I'm in my pajamas, and it's past my bedtime. But it's really great to be able to connect with Claremont ROTC alumni, and so I really appreciate you putting this together. And I first for General Crouch, your comment about really forming your values it really resonates with me. The experience at Claremont academically, socially, but also in the ROTC program, and then for me in the athletic program, was really the foundation that set me up for success for the rest of my life. What I really appreciated about that experience was that the athletic program and the ROTC program worked it out so that I could compete in football and track and field, but also be a leader in the ROTC program. And somewhere in there, I went to class occasionally and managed to graduate. But that was important because the experiences I had in ROTC and in athletics and in the classroom were just tremendous. And then the opportunity to serve my country after graduation was remarkable and rewarding. Took me to Germany, Norway, Egypt, all over the world. Just a great experience. And then I'll tell you, if you're still on active duty, if you do go to war, make sure that you bring your CMC alumni license plate and put it on your Humvee when you cross the line of departure. But it was a great experience. So and thanks for letting me share that.
Great comment.
Carl, we will hopefully you can join next year's tailgate.
Evan, James Ewens will be here because his son is running in the cross-country meet that morning, although his son runs for Whittier, but James says he's still rooting for the Stags. And I was just going to plant a seed with everyone that I know there are stories that we have missed here in our exhibit. I think we've done a lot with ROTC, but I know, as we've said, there are many people in the Army from CMC who didn't go through ROTC. I also know there are alumni who served in other branches of the military. Just last night, hosted a dinner for the Marines who are living over at their same retirement community. So I know that there are those stories that we've missed. There are also stories of veterans who served in other militaries. We have a lot of alumni from Singapore and Korea and other places who've been in the military. So I'd encourage people to share your stories with Sean Stanley, our archivist, sean.stanley@cmc.edu. And I'll put in the chat the link to share your story. If someone would like to add something, we'd love to see it on the Share Your Story website for CMC's 75th anniversary.
Great reminder, John. Thank you. We do encourage everyone to share their story via that link. Jordan is going to be our last one to add some comments before we conclude. Jordan.
Thank you, Evan. And it's great to be here today. So I actually just graduated not too long ago in May as a second lieutenant. I'm currently working, I commissioned as a signal officer, working as a psychological operations officer with 7th PSYOP Group out of Mountain View, California, so up in the Bay Area. And I'm actually one of the few that's still waiting training, so still waiting to go to BOLIC to finish up the officer requirements to officially hit the desk, I guess you could say. But I've been working with my unit in the meantime on a monthly basis, drilling. It's been a great experience. Let me say this ROTC program is outstanding. It set me up for success. I've met many peers already that commissioned alongside me from other units, and let's say that we're just leaps and bounds ahead of everyone based off the resources that we have here, the support that we have from faculty, and then also the great teaching and just pure leadership from Lieutenant Colonel Hayden here at the program. It's been great seeing our peers and seeing that we've been able to come through some pretty tough times with commissioning during COVID, but we're still in it. And I would say we're performing and not only meeting, but exceeding standards. And I think that's thanks to this program. So thank you for having us here today. And it's glad to see all of you again.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Colonel Hayden, General Crouch, any final comments before we conclude?
Dan, go ahead.
Sure, thanks. I love being here. I really do. I had a really great job in Chicago prior to this, and my wife and I really had to, it wasn't really a decision. This was the only job that was going to pull us out of our position in Chicago. And so we were fortunate enough to be here. I did not grow up in this area, but my wife did. As I said, she was a product of this program. So this really is a family affair for us. You can see I've got like photos my kids, drew for me in the back. Jordan knows there's a couple of standing rules I have. If my door is open, you're welcome to come in. But if you do, you're going to hear stories about my family and see pictures of my kids. We couldn't be more excited to be here. Last year was a bit of it was sort of a dry run, but we have no intentions of leaving until the Army makes us. I appreciate everybody's time. I hope that you feel that that your program is in good hands. If not, by all means, I will take all comments and criticism and continue to do my best. Thanks for it. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dan. General Crouch.
Evan, great program. And if you're someone that has served almost 40 years in uniform and another 10 out of it, but in support of the Army, to turn back around and be able to participate in something that you like this, to look at the foundation of that training and values and understanding and education that CMC gives through ROTC, then to be able to reflect back on it is really rewarding. Thanks very much. Thanks to CMC. And thanks to ROTC, and thanks to you all for doing this today.
Thank you, General Crouch. I also mentioned earlier, and I showed on the very final page of that exhibit, the Golden Lion Battalion Challenge Coin, and the 75th Anniversary Committee led by Sue King decided that we would create our own recognition coins modeled after the challenge coins that the military has to provide those that do extraordinary things for CMC and for the CMC community during our 75th anniversary to receive their own challenge coins as well. So while unfortunately doing this virtually, looking forward to honoring you both in person, that CMC has an official 75th anniversary challenge coin. We are awarding the 7th and the 8th challenge coin of the year to each of you. So thank you very much for your service to our country and to this college. And we look forward to seeing you both in person. So to everyone thank you, Bill, from the entire college community, thank you all for your service. Welcome home. We're glad to have all of you here, and we hope to welcome you all to CMC on campus Alumni Weekend in May or around the world at one of our many events and programs. Thank you all for your continued support of this incredible institution. Feel free to unmute, say hello, say goodbye. I'm going to remove the spotlights and turn us back to gallery view. So thanks, everyone.